2024 was an amazing year when it comes to my running, but we did set goals, and it is about time that we look back at the year and make a decision on whether I was able to accomplish everything I set out to do. So it's Friday, January 23rd, actually the last day of my vacation as a teacher before I actually have to get back to work next Monday. Last day because I don't count Saturday and Sunday, but it occurred to me that I hadn't sat down and chatted with you guys about whether I reached my goals in 2024. So today, I figured we might as well go through that, starting with why I set goals in the first place. And just to give you an idea of where I'm at recording the first of this video is that I haven't even looked back at my video from last year to see what my goals I actually set were. I honestly don't know. I have a good idea, but I honestly don't know whether I've met those goals or how far short I actually fell of meeting all the goals I had in mind for 2024. Because I think it's really important to keep in mind that setting the goals and hitting those goals is not everything. For me, one of the things that always happens to me every year when it comes to looking back on whether I met my goals is not paying attention to why I set them in the first place. And one of the big reasons why I set those goals is that I want something that's just almost out of reach. So does it make sense that if I don't hit those goals, that I had an unsuccessful year? Not really. It really just means that I didn't hit those goals that at the beginning of the year I thought were maybe a little bit beyond me. Does that make sense? Also, just a little bit of a side note, look at Zoes Breakfast. Zoe, what is this?
It's graham cracker and peanut butter and banana.
Graham cracker, peanut butter, and banana. She's a runner. She's a runner. You can tell that is maybe the perfect running breakfast. Something that would take way too long for you to make, but I think she put that in the freezer last night. She's just getting it now as we're recording this video. All right, back to the most important stuff, or the more important stuff that I meant to be talking about. And that's when we're setting ourselves up for failure, when we reach for goals that are maybe a little bit out of reach. And the problem that I have with that is that I'm always going to reach for things or set goals that are a little bit out of reach. And when I look back and I haven't hit those goals, oftentimes I'm a little bit too hard on myself on not reaching those goals. And so for today, we're going to go through them. We're going to be easy on ourselves in terms of whether we hit them or not. But we had a successful year. Regardless of how this ends up, regardless of whether it shows that I met my goals or not, we had a successful year. So these are not going to be in any particular order, but we might as well start off on the right foot and talk about a goal that I know that I met. And one of those goals was to reach at least 3,000 kilometers on the year. And I reached that goal. I actually passed that goal by quite a bit, reaching 3,500 and some odd kilometers for 2024, which is bonkers to me thinking about that last year. I thought that 3,000 kilometers for the year was attainable, but just beyond my reach. But somehow we tacked on an extra 600 kilometers, 300 miles onto over what my goal was. And I think more importantly is to not just look at last year, is to look at the progression over the few years, because this whole running thing is a very long-term thing. And for me, I went from 3,500 this year. I had around 2,800 last year. I think the year before I had around 2,000, and the year before that I barely ran. So the progression year over year over year is definitely there, and it makes me really worried about what kind of a goal, if I'm going to set a total mileage goal for 2025, what kind of goal that actually should be. But 3,500 plus kilometers on the year when the goal was only 3,000. And that's one that I really didn't even pay attention to all year. It just sort of happened. I got to get ready, got to get it on a run. When we're out on that run, we'll talk more about the other goals that I had. I've got to look back actually before I get out there to see what my goals actually were. All right, talk to you guys in a bit.
So goal number 2 for 2024 was to hit 3:10 in the marathon. Now in the spring, I thought I was in rough shape to come anywhere near that. I thought I was in rough shape to hit a PR, which at the time, my PR was around 3:31. And I ended up running with somebody else, not paying attention to effort, not paying attention to pace, and running 3:23. And then my original plan was actually to run a second marathon in the fall. I ended up not running that marathon. Vacation, things happen, just didn't feel like it was right for me at the time. Got to run a couple of shorter races I was super happy with, but no marathon. So I fell really short of hitting that goal in 2024. But that does mean that there's a big goal that I can carry over to 2025, which is sub 3:10. And I think by the end of this training block in May, we're probably even going to try to go a little bit lower. But 3:10 in 2024 didn't happen. And that's okay. That's okay. Still really happy with my marathon in the spring. Gave me a whole lot of courage, confidence that I could run a whole lot faster, and showed me that if I was willing to put in the time, 3:10 was possible. Sub 3 also possible. Just need to put in the work.
You know you're getting old when the most exciting thing that you got for Christmas was a blender so you could make smoothies after your runs. But back to where we were, last big goal that I had for 2024 was to PR at all of the major distances. PR at the 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon. And I was almost successful in all those. Now, it's only fair if I give myself a little bit of credit for my 5K being in the middle of my 10K PR. This summer, we took a trip over to France. My wife's from France. And when we were there, left the kids with family and went to London for 4 days. And I did the Saucony London 10K, which was an incredible experience for me. And in that Saucony London 10K, I sort of unintentionally got a 10K PR. I hadn't really been training towards it. I hadn't really focused on it. We were on vacation. Running, I wasn't doing a whole lot of it, but I was able to get a PR in that race. Now, it's really important to note that I don't run a lot of other distances in actual races other than marathons. I like to train for marathons, and some of the more local races, they just don't fall in line with the work that I normally do on the weekends at the gym. So I was able to run a 10K PR, and during that 10K, I also ran a 5K PR according to Strava. So I'm going to take it 5K, 10K, even though the 5K wasn't an official race. Half marathon, I still haven't been able to beat my half marathon time trial that I did leading into a marathon 2 years ago when I feel like I wasn't nearly as fit as I am now. So half marathon, haven't been able to touch that. I didn't do any actual half marathon races this year. And marathon, well, the marathon PR came in the spring. I mentioned it earlier. I did a marathon in the spring where my fitness was not necessarily where I wanted it to be for that race, and I had no idea what I was going to be able to run. And there was a friend who had run a 50K the week before and was using this a little bit as a fun run, and met up with me after the first kilometer. I had no idea they were even running, and they asked me what my idea was for pace. I told them. We ended up running about 7 minutes faster than that. Me not paying attention to pace or heart rate or effort at all, just running with them. It was an incredible experience. One of the best races that I've ever had. So those were my PRs. So 5K, 10K, marathon, missed out on the half marathon, and the 5K was not technically a race. It was in the middle of the 10K. But oddly enough, the one thing that stands out from all of that is at no point during any of those was I really actually expecting to get those PRs. The 5K in the middle of the 10K, certainly not. The 10K, I hadn't really been training to get a PR in the 10K. I think I've got a lot more to give there, but I hadn't really been training for it, and I was able to go out and run a faster 10K than I've ever run before in my life. The marathon, didn't think I was in the shape to run the race that I did, was kind of disappointed that I hadn't been in the shape going into it, and then surprised myself just running with friends. And that half marathon time trial that I did a couple of years ago, I remember that being a run where I started out with no expectations, not letting anybody know that I was running a time trial, and just running. And after about 2K into that, I felt like I was running my 5K pace, and there was no way that I was going to be able to hold on to that. And I just said, screw it, we're just going to run this and see how fast we can run this, and then hopefully we can hang on for as long as we can. And whenever that ends, it's just another run that goes up on Strava. Nobody needs to know what I was actually trying to do. But I was able to hold on. I surprised myself with how fast I was going to be able to run there. And it turned out to be, and still is, the fastest half marathon distance that I've run. And beyond all those, I think it's important to mention one of the things that I ended up doing in the fall, instead of running the original marathon that I planned on running, was that I helped my daughter run a PR in a 10K. It was probably my second biggest race of the year. I know I mentioned in another video that my biggest race was actually the pizza mile for her birthday, but that 10K, getting her to a PR was incredible. Not one of my goals, but one of hers. So I guess the big point that I'm trying to make here before we actually wrap up this video is that none of these goals, none of these accomplishments that I had in my running in 2024 came at a time when I was expecting them. They were all sort of at a time when I least expected it, and it all had to do with just consistency and loving running and moving the needle forward the whole year. That I was able to accomplish these goals, it kind of just happened, and I am incredibly happy with that. I'm incredibly excited to see what's going to happen in 2025. I have some specific goals that I'll talk about in another video, and they are pretty big goals. Once again, maybe I don't hit them, but I'm going to have a whole lot of fun trying. That's it, guys. That's the end of the video. My name is Matt, and this has been What Matters to Matt, and ultimately, what matters to me most is my family. I'll see you guys in the next video.